Hi, welcome to SAS 101, the parent session. My name is Kate and I'm one of the accessibility advisors and learning strategists here at Student Accessibility Services in Peterborough. I'm also a parent. My youngest child is starting Trent in the fall and we're going through registration with SAS, so I get where you're coming from and I'm sure you've got lots of questions along the way. We're happy to answer those questions. You can reach us via email at SAS, that's SAS, at trentu.ca, through telephone 705-748-1281, or just visit our website, trentu.ca/SAS. This information session is going to cover a variety of topics. We're going to go through student supports and resources, information about how to actually register with SAS, some examples of accommodations, and finally some funding examples and resources for you. Here's a photo of our team. This was taken at the end of June, physical distancing. This was actually the first time we were able to get together since March. And our next slide, I'll just go through who we are for you. But as you can see, we're a happy bunch and want to get that across to you as well. So here's the team. Jennifer is our team lead. She's one of our accessibility advisors and learning strategists. Nancy, she does coaching, academic coaching. She's also an accessibility advisor and learning strategist. I'm Kate. I've already introduced myself. Jess is an accessibility advisor and learning strategist. Holly is manager of the Center for Academic Testing. She's also working this summer as an accessibility advisor supporting students who are new to Trent and registering with us for the first time. Caleb is our adaptive technologist, or our tech guy. He is a valuable resource for all your tech-related questions. We have Marla at the front desk, so once we're back face-to-face, Marla is the first point of contact, probably when you have reached out to SAS. If you have already via email or telephone, it's Marla with whom you've been communicating. And we also have Megan. Megan has just graduated from Trent with her undergraduate degree. In the fall, she will be doing her Bachelor of Education also at Trent. And Megan is here as our student support staff. And she's just a fabulous resource for students to connect and just to get that student perspective on matters, all things SAS and all things Trent University as well. Starting Trent is a big transition for your student. It's also a big transition for you. And again, my youngest guy is heading to Trent, so I get this. I remember the first day of school. Actually, my little guy was a little more eager than this one to head off. But now I'm just like, I cannot believe that this time has come. There are also a lot of changes. I've spent my life advocating for my son, as I'm sure you have spent your lives advocating for your student. And now there's also a bit of a transition in that your student is becoming more independent and needs to use those skills and those tools that you have taught them to advocate for themselves. If you notice that there are certain things going on with your student, as I'm sure you will during this transition period, maybe your student doesn't talk about how things are going, has difficulty adjusting to university life. I know the world right now, we're having a difficult time adjusting to it. So whether your child, your student is at home with you or coming to Peterborough or on campus, please know that there are supports available. Maybe you're worried that your student has not completed their registration with SAS, doesn't like their courses, even perhaps fails a course, makes a mistake and it snowballs. Please know that there is support available. The difference between high school and university is that your student is now considered an adult. So with Ontario and our Privacy Act, we cannot communicate with you, the parent or supporter, in ways that high school teachers were able to. However, if you ever have concerns, please reach out and just know we will follow up. So even though we might not be able to give a lot of information as to what we're doing or anything like that, just know and understand that we take any concerns seriously and we do follow up. There are learning processes involved in education as well, and sometimes the best forms of learning happen when we don't do as well and perhaps even fail. So it is okay if a student fails a test or even fails a course. If there are specific disability related needs to that, please ensure that your student connects with their SAS advisor so we can talk about changes that might need to be made to the accommodation plan. And in some situations there are even just different petitions and appeals that we can go through. Yes, so big transition, but we are here for you. One of the really unique and exciting aspects of Trent University Student Accessibility Services is that we are part of the Student Wellness Center. So this consists of health services, our doctors, our nurses, psychiatrists that comes in. We've got counselors available, and then student accessibility services. So if your student is away from home and living on campus or in Peterborough, but in a different city, please know that there are doctors and nurses available. Should your student get sick or if they need ongoing prescription refills, students will be required to sign a consent to disclose to get information from their family doctor or specialist, but that is an option for prescriptions to be refilled through Peterborough. Although we don't have a pharmaceutical dispensary on campus, our student association does have connections. That sounds bad with respect to meds, but there are connections where your student can go and with their prescription, it can be delivered safely and securely to campus, and then your student can pick it up at the student association office on campus. Counseling, again, is available free of charge to students. Whether there is a diagnosed mental health illness or perhaps your student's just struggling with the common everyday situations that all people deal with, there is counseling available that's included in tuition, and we recommend that students make those connections that are available. While things are online, counseling is available online as well. So please make sure your student is aware of that. And finally, Student Accessibility Services, which is us and why I'm here to talk to you today. There is a student health benefits plan available through Trent University. If you or a partner, spouse, one of the family members has some sort of health benefits plan, your student may wish to opt out. As long as it is done by the end of September, your student will get a bit of a refund. So basically, all students are opted in to the health benefits plan, and they have the option to opt out within that first month. If you've got a great benefits plan, fabulous. You can just demonstrate proof of that and your student can opt out. I would urge you to consider, though, having your student remain in, if you've got a great plan, in a couple of situations. One is with respect to counseling. If your student does require external counseling, then maybe you'll want to opt in, remain opted in, because there is $500 a month $500 a year available for that. So from a cost perspective, it may make sense to stay in. Additionally, if your student requires an updated psychological assessment, those typically run around $2,000. Apparently they're even more in the Toronto area. So if your psychological services do not cover the full amount, again, perhaps the first year you would like your student to remain opted in order to access that additional $500. Also, if your student has other medical needs where it would make sense to remain in the plan to take advantage of the funds that are there, so vision, chiropractor, massage, there's a variety. Check in and see what makes the most sense for you. So groups and workshops, we've got a variety of supports available for your student. Right now, things are not face-to-face, at least for the most part, and it's looking like as we head into the fall, Student Accessibility Services will continue to offer assistance and support remotely. But again, we're here and we are offering supports and services. We've got First Year Forum, where first-year students can join part of our learning management system and just get tips and strategies and supports. Our student staff is available with that as well, and a fabulous resource so students get that student perspective. We have the accommodation zip line. Our accommodation support is offered through the SAS portal, which is part of my Trent. So at the very beginning of each semester, we offer just an additional level of support for students to navigate the SAS portal to make sure professors are notified of accommodation requests. And there are other aspects of some accommodations that are handled through the portal. So just an extra workshop or two to support students with that. We've got leadership training. We've got a specialized social group for students on the autism spectrum. We've got a group for students with ADHD. We also offer a variety of workshops on time management, organization, and as we are becoming more accustomed to the remote delivery of services, we are continuing to expand the workshops that we are offering. So note-taking is one that we've just recently started and has had very positive interactions with students, and quite a few students have attended that. So I imagine something like that is going to definitely continue as we move forward. There are lots of resources available to students. There are so many resources, in fact, that sometimes students have a difficult time navigating and knowing where to go. And that's where we at Accessibility Services are happy to help. So if we're not the ones that a student needs to connect with, we can let your student know where they need to go. So please let your student know we are happy to be that first point of contact to help your student navigate this new system. Academic advising is a service that I recommend students connect with at least once a year. They're the ones that help students choose courses, make sure their selections are on track for graduation, make sure they've got all those requirements, and also offer some suggestions like, you know what, this course is very essay-based and you've told me that you do better with tests or exams or the other way around. And that can be a huge help for students. We've got academic skills instructors, so students who need some extra learning strategy support can either meet with their learning strategist and accessibility advisor. We view things with the lens of disability. We're aware of your students' strengths and their needs and can work around that with respect to the strategies we provide. However, academic skills provide some fabulous general strategies. I've got some students that take advantage of both services, and why not? So most students at Trent have access to 5 academic skills sessions per semester. All a student needs to do is self-identify that they're registered with SAS, no other information required, and they can have up to 8. And to be honest with you, if a student is really actively using the service and benefiting from it, there are times that more can be provided. We have peer support services. So we've got a program, Rebound, for students who are maybe struggling a little bit, settling in, just learning strategies. They've got a peer, usually an upper year student, that is connected with them and just provides support, resources, encouragement, motivation. For students who are living in residence, there are the residence life coordinators and the DONs. These people go through training. They are paid staff through Trent, and students can go to them also. Hey, where should I go? Or, wow, I'm having a really rough day. Or, you know, I'm feeling lonely and I don't have any connections. Hook your student up, let them know that they can at any time talk to someone, one of the staff members in their residence. So how to register with SAS. When your student was in high school, instructors, their teachers were automatically notified by the CERT, the special education resource teacher, of the needs, and an IEP was given. It doesn't work like that in the post-secondary sector. Your student needs to register. They need to provide documentation. So the first step your student needs to complete is to fill in the pre-intake questionnaire on our website. So that's trentu.ca/SAS, and if you navigate through there, you'll see how to register and find the pre-intake questionnaire. There's a spot there for your student just to give a bit of information about themselves, to indicate whether they've had accommodations in the past and to list what's been helpful, information that gives a little bit more knowledge to the accessibility advisors as to what your student does well, where their areas of need are, and there's also a spot to upload documentation, and this is critical. Students need to have a documented disability to receive academic accommodations at the university level. We recognize that right now our world is in a challenging spot and it may be quite difficult to obtain that documentation. And if that's the case, we recommend uploading whatever you can, whether it be a copy of the IEP, which doesn't serve as proof of disability, but at least it indicates that somewhere along the line there is proof of disability and we're just in the process of finding it. After your student has uploaded and submitted the pre-intake questionnaire, they will be connected with an accessibility advisor. Right now, we're meeting either via telephone or via Zoom video conferencing, and we will meet with your student to find out more about them. What do they do really well? What is it that they want to do? What are their areas of struggle? And how can we help them level the playing field academically so that they can be successful with their studies? And finally, we will follow up in September with your student just to make sure they've been able to navigate the SAS portal. As I said earlier, everything is done on the SAS portal. So we just want to make sure that that's being navigated, that your students have been able to notify their professors, that once they're into the university system and life, they know what's going on and are feeling more comfortable. And if they need any more support, we can make future appointments. So when your student registers with us, it's up to them to notify their professors, and I think that's all on the next slide, so I'll just forward here. Yes, so unlike high school, as I mentioned earlier, your student is responsible to notify their professors of their accommodation requirements. In high school, teachers got a copy of the IEP. It listed the diagnosis, it listed the strengths and the needs, it listed previous assessments. That's not the case in university. The only thing that the professors are going to receive is a list of the approved accommodations. Because of our Ontario privacy laws, that is all that we can share. And that's really all professors need to know. If a student does not access the SAS portal and notify their profs, the profs are not going to be aware of the accommodation. So this step is crucial and why we follow up with students in September. And again, when we're back to face-to-face, this is where test booking will take place and note-taking requests. And some students have alternate format. That's where that will take place as well. So again, privacy and confidentiality, only relevant in class, and exam accommodation is shared with the faculty. So even some out-of-class resources, if students need various technology, what a student does on their own time is their own business. So it's in class and test and exam accommodations that are shared with profs. So here's a little bit of a picture, and for fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. And here we've got a bird and a monkey and a penguin, an elephant, a fish in a bowl, a seal, and I don't know what that is, maybe a dog or a goat? No, I think it must be, I don't know what it is. But anyways, this is just a little example that everyone is different. And when your student meets with their accessibility advisor, even though we do have some common accommodations that are given and provided to students, we need to meet to see what your student needs so that they will be able to manage their academics to the very best of their ability. And this is just an example that not everything is going to be the same for everybody, and not everyone is going to have the same strengths and abilities, and that's where we come in. Here's a photo of our Center for Academic Testing, which is currently closed. This is just one of the rooms that we use. So you can see there are some carrels with computers, there's some tables. Over to the right, there's some rooms. So again, different students have different needs. Some need technology, some don't. We will work with students to determine what it is that they need. When we are back on campus and students are writing face-to-face exams, they will go to the Center for Academic Testing. So some students in high school went to a separate room, and this is comparable to that. If a student needs to be accommodated in any way for their university tests and exams, they must register with the Center for Academic Testing, and this needs to be done through the SAS portal a minimum of 2 weeks prior to the test or exam. When a student starts their semester, they get a syllabus for each course. And I always recommend to my students, and some meet with me and I go through the syllabi with the students, look through them all, record all the important dates, and book things right away. It's always a bit slower those first few days of the semester. That's the time to book things. In fact, all dates should be provided through the syllabi. The only thing that won't be there is the final exam date, and then we send reminders to students. But again, that needs to be booked through the portal for students to be accommodated. Right now, with our remote learning and students doing tests and exams at home, we're recommending that students send out their accommodation plans at the beginning of the semester with a follow-up email to each professor just to say, you know, dear Professor so-and-so, my name is such and such, student number this. I am accommodated with an extended time factor of 1.25 for tests and exams. Please allow me to use this extended time factor for all quizzes, tests, and exams throughout this course. And that should be good. Other accommodations that we usually provide, maybe a distraction-free room, the technology, just because of the environment that we're in right now, that's going to be up to the student to ensure that they have at home. And if there's questions, again, connect with their accessibility advisor or with Caleb, our adaptive technologist. So some of the accommodations that we offer I've listed here: peer-provided notes, audio recording of lectures, learning strategy support, coaching support, alternative electronic formats, adaptive technologies. These are just a few of many, and again, it's going to vary. There needs to be documented needs. So I have some students that come and say, oh, that would be really helpful. And I think, well, yeah, it would be really helpful for everybody, but there needs to be a documented need for the accommodations that we put in place. So as accessibility advisors, we need to be able to support our decisions as to why we've implemented things. So if you haven't yet got documentation, this would be a great time to connect with the doctor or psychologist or psychiatrist or whoever's completing the documentation, just to make sure that those needs really are outlined on the proof of disability to help accessibility advisors move forward. And I would also like to mention, just because a doctor has made a recommendation doesn't mean that it's appropriate. So we have some students coming in and saying, I get as long as I need to write an exam. That's not an accommodation that we offer at Trent University. So we do work with students, and we do have accommodations to support needs, and those accommodations are reasonable and appropriate and necessary for students to succeed. One of the accommodations that we offer quite regularly, and especially during this time of online learning, which can be very draining. There's just a different brain power that is used for online learning, and as a result, it can just be exhausting. So we've been recommending reduced course load for a number of students. Reduced course load is an accommodation that is approved for some. There does need to be documentation to support the diagnosis of a disability. So unfortunately, even though we recognize right now it can be challenging because of the financial piece and the OSAP piece, there does need to be documentation for this. But yeah, it's an approved accommodation. Right now at Trent, tuition is billed as a lump sum fee for students who are taking 4 or 5 courses. With reduced course load as an accommodation, students are billed per credit. So this just gives a little bit of financial flexibility if students think, you know what, I think that 5 courses right now is too much. I'm going to drop down to 4. Even 3 makes sense in some cases. For students who are on a scholarship, they can maintain their entrance scholarship with a minimum of 4 credits, and actually with approved documentation, some students can even do 3. Oh, the dog. Let me just... And I'm back again. Life at home with animals during COVID. So I was saying about scholarship, students who are on OSAP, if their documentation indicates a permanent disability, they can actually go down to 2 courses per semester and still be considered full-time for OSAP. It's always a good idea for students to check in with their accessibility advisor, just because there's different policies for Trent within financial aid, registrars, scholarships, and then OSAP. And it can be confusing, but we're here to answer those questions. As long as a student meets the financial drop deadline, which this year is September 24th, it's the 2nd Thursday of classes, then they will be billed per credit for the courses they take. So if your student starts with 5 courses and then just thinks, oh dear, that was not a good idea, I really don't think I can do this, not to worry, they have until the 24th to make that decision, at least with respect to finances. Here we go. So OSAP. If your student has a permanent disability, I strongly encourage your student to apply for OSAP, even if they don't need the loan. The reason being, there is a $2,000 annual grant for students with permanent disabilities who are eligible for OSAP. So even if they receive $1 of loan funding, that opens up the door to the Permanent Disability Canada Study Grant. Also, there's a bursary for students with disabilities. So there's the $2,000 study grant. There's also the bursary. The bursary is available to students whether it's a temporary prognosis or a permanent prognosis with respect to their disability. There are just some maybe adaptive softwares, some applications, certain technologies that students may require because of their disability. If a student is eligible for OSAP, we can then tap into that. Students who require an updated psychoeducational assessment. So these are students primarily with learning disabilities who need to have documentation within the last 5 years. This is something to look into because there could be up to $2,000 depending on the type of funding that might be available for students. We're often asked about computers. Trent does not support bursary applications for computers because it's an expectation that all students have access to a computer. So by providing bursary funding to a student for a computer would actually give them an unfair advantage financially. But different like I said, different applications. So there are some students that need Notability, some students that use smart pens, some students that need specialized headphones. There's a list, and an accessibility advisor can go through students with that. The bursary for students with disabilities needs to be done through the accessibility office at each institution, so here at SAS at Trent. Other sources of funding, there's the RESP, the Registered Educational Savings Plan. If you've got this set up, check with your bank or your plan administrator as to what is needed. If a student requires a record of enrollment at Trent, this can be done through the My Trent portal, and again, the accessibility advisor is happy to help navigate that with the student, or the student can also connect with the registrar's office if they can't find it. But really just go into My Trent and put it in the search bar and your student should be able to find that. There's also Trent scholarships and in-course bursaries. So at the very beginning of the semester, these are available to students. Basically, there's one form to fill in, and a student can apply for everything in one. So I really recommend that students do this. When my daughter was doing her first undergrad, she filled those in, and every so often, I got $300 and I just filled in this form. So very worthwhile looking into and doing. And finally, thank you for joining me, whether it was this morning, this afternoon, this evening, tonight, whatever time you're listening to this. I'm blessed to be working with a fabulous team. Like I said, we are here to support your student and you as much as possible. So any questions, please feel free to get in touch with us, and we're more than happy to help. Thank you, and we look forward to meeting with you sometime. Bye.